Hello everybody and welcome back to artofdino.com and saveearth.us, and today again I was rummaging through the Rumsies, davidrumsey.com, and I found, looking for something else entirely, I found this aviation atlas from 1935 to 1936, and it had some interesting things. I posted one in a post section, but I wanted to make a video about it because there's this and a few more things, and this history of flight doesn't make any sense. They point to it out in this when they show the history of like 322 BC or something, when you'll see when one of the guys, Herodotus or Aristotle or something, is talking about flying, and then the next thing that happens is something in the 1700s. It's just absolutely preposterous, the amount of damage that the reset has done. And another area that is a total side effect of this research was the Gulf building, which is Pittsburgh. Looks like a lot of old world buildings to me, and they brag about the beacon, the weather beacon at the top. They don't mention anything about it being an airship connector, but they do talk about airships, and you have to keep that in mind because this postcard, blatant. The Empire State Building has this and photos of it as a docking station, so the tops of buildings are up for grabs. When they tell you they're nothing relating to this, you have to know that it is a lie. Whether it's an ether generator or something like this, they were used for something. They weren't just decoration that the buildings and architects spent pretty much the most time on. The most complex thing is usually at the top, and they try to just make it seem useless, but that's not the case. So keep that in mind. And so I found some interesting, this is a small little brochure, but it's got some things here that can probably be examined further than I'm going to take it today. I'm just kind of presenting most of it and just diving into a few different things. But the United States air transport routes, again, this is 1934. There's probably something there that you could look into, but look at this. Ships of the air, lighter than aircraft, and then ships of the air, heavier than aircraft, which again has another mystery behind it too, because the planes that we see every day do not have enough fuel to do what they claim to do. But look at that tiny balloon up at the top. You'll see it. And then boom, BC all the way to 1700s. Nothing happened. Nobody figured out. Nobody wanted to fly. Yet the most innate instinct of all of us is to look at a bird and say, damn, I wish I could do that. And look at that Montgolfier hot air balloon, 1783, first to ascend. Yet it's the most detailed of all of them and doesn't even appear to have the strings. It looks like it has some ether power blasting out of it or some kind of force. Super decorated. They never went back to that. But yet that's the first one. So they started off pristine and amazing, and then they got crappier over time. Interesting. Archimedes, that's who it is. So the first seeds, 2,000 years before flight became a reality, 232 BC, Archimedes. Then the next thing on the timeline is 1766 AD. So, wow, so much room for lies, so much room for scams. And remember, everything they tell us that happened a week ago can't be trusted, let alone thousands of years ago, hundreds of years ago, all lies. Again, this is another thing you could scan, the chronological review of aviation history. I didn't dive into this, but probably will soon enough, especially as Amelia Earhart is brought back into the fray here with Trump talking about Amelia Earhart and getting to the bottom of it. A lot of people speculating that she maybe discovered the flat earth. Maybe she went to Shangri-La. Maybe she went over Antarctica. Maybe she saw something she shouldn't have. Maybe who knows? Maybe she ended up somewhere that nobody even knows, but I'm assuming someone does, so, because they always do, and every time there's a big story like this, especially in history, it's most likely surrounded by lies. Just a theme in all of history, post-reset, but I didn't do it. Just blame the people that lied, the historians. Garbage. So look at all this. This is, again, another cool map from that Gulf thing, the historical flight map. This is something, again, I want to look a little deeper into, because they talk about one of the Graf Zeppelins that went around the world. A couple of them were like specialized in doing things from like Rio de Janeiro to China, or like all different spots. And this is another part that was pretty cool. The American airports, God knows what they were before, how old they are, how ancient they could be. But we were just balloons and all this other stuff. They never had any advanced weaponry, advanced flight, no Vimanas, none of that. And again, this, like the last video, leaves out all of the history of China, all of the history of India, all of the history of everywhere else in the realm that could have created this, because they favor the American European news and eradicate everything else in order to make us seem superior, which we are not. And again, this is the European map. the North American maps. There's got to be something there. And even the certain places that they go to are probably, strategic and have something ancient there, have something connection there, because they were not messing around in places that didn't need to be built up and whatever and traveled to. They were only going to the places that needed to be traveled to. This is another whole thing that could be pretty interesting to look at. I recommend it. I'll include the link below. And David Rumsey, again, if you go on David Rumsey and search Gulf Corporation 1934, you will find this. Progress of Civil Aeronautics in the United States. Again, a bunch of interesting things to comb through. You never know. Leading military air fleets of the world. Interesting that they convinced all of the powers of the world to get rid of their aircraft and airships as a result of the Hindenburg, which again is the mind control mania for the people that were around at the time. Anytime an event just crushes the collective consciousness, like the one that happened on 9/10 and 9/11, and a lot of times that that it is a fabrication because the stories never add up, and the power that in situation of control that arises in the minds of the people, and the mind warping and the brainwashing that occurs from these events is so strong, so powerful, so valuable that it would take generations of education in order to shift things the way a tragedy of epic proportions can. So again, who knows? But that was pretty much the contents, and then I went back to this page to show that Gulf building one more time, and we'll dive into that a little bit. It's another one of those things where it became the tallest building after the Philadelphia City Hall, which is a masterpiece. They claim it's just an Art Deco skyscraper, blah blah blah, made in 1932, completed then. I'm not totally buying it, and the reason is because, again, construction photos are lacking. However, there are two. And this one as well, and then there's one other one. And these, again, could be other places. I think they're the right place, but the sepia, notice the sepia and the quality of the photo. They say 1932. I kind of don't think so. I think it's earlier than that. But I might be wrong. Maybe they just decided to take two pictures of this amazing building being built, and that satisfied them perfectly. But 40 stories, 2 years, $11 million, opened in 1932. Trowbridge in Livingston, the architects, God knows what else they did, but interesting. There's I could go either way on this. They could be telling us the truth, or they could be completely lying, because it does look very old world, and the tech on the top is pretty cool. This I thought was an amazing picture with it. This looks like from another time where things made sense, and again, still after the prime. This is still not in its prime, but I wonder when that was, because this is just a beautiful image. I love that. Almost want to draw it. So beautiful. And then this is another one which could be anywhere, but they claim it's the Gulf building. But look at it. What a disastrous mess. How are you going to turn that into something that makes sense? I don't know. This is where I kind of just, I could go either way on it. I don't trust anything they say, but I also, it's always kind of something else, but who knows? But this is pretty cool. The weather, according to the tower, people would look for miles and miles and find out the weather from this. So again, that's another thing that could be an ancient method, like bells, clock towers, all those things. They probably had something for the weather too. I wouldn't be surprised. Could have even told the status of the airship, containment, or whatever. They say it's just a beacon at the top to stop planes from hitting it, but who knows? We are not told the truth, and that is for damn sure. But either way, massive building, beautiful, nice pyramid on the top. Who knows the truth of all this, but these buildings probably go deeper. There's probably an underground, tons of stuff that they never tell us about. And one day we will figure it out. But take a look at this stuff, see what you can find, and let me know in the comments if you find anything juicier than I presented here. But either way, 2,000 years, nothing done with flight, stupid. And again, not to counter in Japan and China and all those countries, Tartary, Russia, everyone else whose history we don't include into ours is a shame and shouldn't be done, and again is a mind control tactic to erase history and eradicate the greatness that we once came from. They don't want us to know that, but we're discovering it and we'll push it forward. So bless you all. I hope you enjoyed this. From artofdino.com and savor.us.